Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Made by Jax. I'm Brittany Jaxon and I'm so excited to come out of this long hibernation with my new design called the Phoebe skirt. A couple of months ago, I asked my Instagram followers, what kind of pattern are you looking for? And after sifting through your responses and tallying up the most requested pattern, I saw a lot of lacy, whimsical maxi skirt requests, and I knew exactly what to do. I already had a sketch in mind. And thanks to your vote, her name is Phoebe, which I think is perfect. She's absolutely giving Phoebe from Friends vibes, like hello. Anyways, it took a few months of trial and error. I made like 3 skirts trying to test the shapes of the different designs that you can make with this pattern, which I will walk you through the instructions on how to alter your skirt to achieve any of these looks. I also made a little sketch to give you a heads up on all of your options. So you can have a ruffled, flared A-line shape, a mermaid tail design, kind of like the Morticia dress, a straight fitted look, and many variations in between, including even having partial coverage if you don't want the entire skirt to be lace. Let's go ahead and take a look at what materials we'll need to make this skirt. PSA, if you watch all the way to the end of this video, I will tell you exactly how many grams and ounces of yarn that I use for all 4 skirts that you saw in the beginning of this video. And in the meantime, here's a little glimpse at the yarn details because I know y'all be asking about that. Now before we get started, I'm going to give you a heads up with our construction plan. So we're going to start with making our waistband ribbing. Then we're going to dive into our 8-row repeats and I will demonstrate how to make the different shapes. And then we're going to make this cute little bobble tassel border and finally our drawstring. So who's ready to get started? First things first, grab 2 measurements, starting with the smallest part of your waist, making sure you're not squeezing too tightly, and then get the widest part of your hips, making sure this is all the way around your butt and hips. Now let's dive into making our waistband ribbing. I'm creating my slip knot and grabbing my 4mm crochet hook. From here, I'm going to chain up 9. This will be the height of my waistband. Now, normally we would single crochet into the top of our chains, but instead I would like to single crochet into the back loops so that when we connect the beginning and end of our band, it's going to look seamless. So looking at the second chain from your hook, turn your chain and begin single crocheting into the back loops all the way down your chain. You should have 8 single crochet total by the time you get to the end of this row. Once you've completed your first row, it's pretty cool to see these V stitches on both sides of your work. Alright, moving on. For row 2, chain 1, turn your work. We're going to begin single crocheting into the back loop only. So as you see here, I'm inserting my hook into that back loop and leaving a single crochet. I'm doing that on every stitch, all 8 stitches going down. So your stitch count should remain consistent. I'm also keeping track of how many rows I'm doing, which is why you need a shit ton of stitch markers, just FYI. Alright, here's what 2 rows of our ribbing looks like so far. Now everything is a repeat of row 2. Chain 1, turn your work, and continue single crocheting into the back loop only of all of your stitches. While I'm working on my ribbing, I'm gonna go ahead and explain why I'm keeping track of how many rows I'm doing on my ribbing. So this design depends on a perfect multiple of 4 or 8. One of those multiples. So I'm going to leave a stitch marker on every 8th row of this ribbing just so I can keep track. You do not have to do that. This is totally optional. I just know that it's hard to count rows of ribbing because they're all funky, and this is just my handy dandy way of keeping track. You can do whatever you want, but seek to achieve a multiple of 4 or 8. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the footage and show you what 8 rows look like. It's really not much. See, this is what it looks like. This is 8 rows, barely over an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it. I just follow along this row of crochet and try to slip it in there in that very last stitch that I made, right in a spot that I know it won't get in my way whenever I start my next row. As you can see here, I could still chain one and turn my work and do just fine. I'm going to go ahead and speed up this footage and jump to my next 8 rows of my ribbing just to give you an idea of what that looks like. Here I am finishing another 8 rows. Technically this is row 16, and I'm adding my stitch marker right there in a loop of my last stitch, making sure it's not in the way, and then carrying on with my ribbing. So I'm just going to keep doing this until this ribbing can comfortably wrap around my waist and stretch around my hips. If you added stitch markers on every 8 rows, then it should be easy for you to keep up and count how many multiples you have. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'll go ahead and give it a measure, laying flat, unstretched. It's looking like it's 29 inches, so that's, I believe, what my measurement was. So I'm going to go ahead and hold this up around my body, making sure that it comfortably wraps around my waist, and then it can also comfortably stretch around the widest part of my hips. Try this out on your own body, making sure that it is the same on your waist and hips, and then we can move on. I'm taking a quick note of this, so 8 times 17 is 136, and I'm just going to remove all of these stitch markers. Alright, now it's time to close our waistband. So I'm reinserting my hook where my last stitch marker was. I have a chain 1 on my hook. Next, make sure that your waistband is not twisted up. We're going to fold it in half, bringing the very first row to the very last row. Now looking at your work, they're sandwiched together. You can see that braided row from that chain that we first initially did, and this only looks this way because we single crocheted into the back loop. So now we're going to connect them together by inserting our hook into the back loop of our bottom row and the front loop of our top row. So that front loop, very first stitch over there, and then slip stitching them together. Moving on to the next stitch, go into the back loop of the bottom row and the front loop of the top row, slip stitch together, back loop bottom row, front loop top row. Keep this going until you have slip stitched all 8 stitches together. After you've left your last slip stitch, chain 1 and admire your seamless work. Look at her, look how beautiful she is. So now it is time for us to make a foundation row all along the bottom of this. This is just going to be a row of single crochet. This is not part of our 8 row repeats. So I want to show you where I'm working. These holes right here are 2 rows of single crochet. It's the beginning and end of these ribbing rows. So I'm going to be working into those spaces. So inserting my hook into this row, leaving a single crochet, inserting my hook into this row, leaving a single crochet. So this is how I am adding my row of single crochet all the way around, making sure that my stitch count is consistent. So by the end of this, I should still have 136 stitches because I have 136 rows of ribbing. So this is what this looks like for my foundation row. I'm going to keep going all the way around and I'll meet you towards the end. Right now I'm leaving my last single crochet along my ribbing. And here's what my work looks like right now, and it's time to slip stitch to connect and finish this row off. So ignoring that first chain, slip stitch into the first single crochet that you made, and here we have it. Our stitch count should be consistent and match our rows of ribbing. It should be either a multiple of 4 or 8. So write this down if you need to, because we're gonna need this for math later, just saying. So next, we're going to determine which design we chose, if we're going to be making a straight design, or if we're going to make a flared ruffled design, or the fitted mermaid tail design. So there's many different options we can choose from. It just depends on how many increases we add. Our next row is double crochets with some increases based on which design you like the most. So take a quick note of which design you like the most before we get started with our next row. I'm going to be following the semi-flared A-line design, so I will be increasing on every 3rd stitch. So follow along with me if that's the same design that you're doing. And if you're making a mermaid tail, then you're in luck because I'm also making one of those two off to the side. I'll update you guys with that one whenever I'm ready to do the ruffled increases for the mermaid tail part. So yeah. So let's get started with our increase row. This is still not a part of our 8 row repeats. It's still just setting up the tone and setting the design up. So I have a chain 1 on my hook and I'm turning my work, and I'm going to start with a stacked double crochet. So looking at this first stitch, I'm going to begin with a single crochet in this very first stitch. And then I'm going to go back into the front post of the single crochet and leave another single crochet. So it's like 2 single crochets on top of each other, and that's what makes a stacked double crochet. So that's my first stitch. I'm leaving my second stitch right here in the next space. And then my third stitch, I'm going to leave an increase. So here's 1 and 2 double crochet all in the same stitch. So this is how I am increasing on every third stitch, repeating this over and over. Here's 1, 2, and on my third, I'm increasing. If you are also making the semi-flared A-line shape, then follow along with me. Otherwise, do your increases based on the design that you choose. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the footage for the rest of this increase row, and then we can get started on our 8 row repeats. I just finished up the last few stitches. Now it's time to connect, and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the stacked double crochet right at the beginning of our row. And that completes our increase row. Chain 1, and we're going to get started with these 8 row repeats finally. But first, take a look at the little increase flare that's going on here. I like that. Alright, time to move on to our 8 row repeat. So here's a little graph of what that's going to look like for those who like that kind of thing. If you can see all the way at the bottom, we're going to do a row of half double crochets. So getting started with a chain 1, turning our work, and beginning with a half double crochet into that same stitch that you have your chain 1 coming out of. I know, real simple row. Also, watch me struggle with this first stitch. How embarrassing. There's my first half double crochet, and I'm just going to keep it going. Half double crochet into every stitch all the way around, and this will be your first row of your 8 row repeats. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the footage, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. Here I am leaving my last few stitches and just letting you take a look at this very last half double crochet of my row before connecting to the beginning. So that's just that. Once you're done, connect and slip stitch into the top of the first half double crochet that you made. And also, your stitch count should be consistent after you made your increase row. So everything that you count here on out should be consistent unless you add another increase row later. Alright, getting started with row 2. Here's a reminder of the chart. If you want to take a look at the bottom, this is what the row looks like that we're about to approach. We've got clusters and chains. So this one's funky. Chain up 3. This is the only time we're ever going to use a chain 3 for a double crochet. It's only because this is about to be a cluster. So with that being said, you have your chain 3, now turn your work. This chain 3 will count as a double crochet on this stitch right here. So next we're going to double crochet 2 together into the next 2 stitches. So yarn over, begin a double crochet into the next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2, leaving 2 loops on your hook. Let's go into the next stitch, starting with a double crochet, pull up a loop, pull through 2. Now you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that is your cluster. From here we're going to chain up 5, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip 1 stitch and then double crochet 3 together, which make our cluster. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2. You should have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2. And now you have 4 loops on your hook. So yarn over, pull through all 4. From here, it begins to repeat itself. Chain 5, skip 1, and then double crochet 3 together, which make your cluster. I will demonstrate this a couple more times, but ultimately you should get the hang of this after a few of these. So without repeating myself too much, I'm just going to let it be a little silent while I work on these next few clusters, and then I'll meet you at the end to show you how to finish this row off. Right now I'm leaving my last cluster. Next, chain 5, and we're going to reach all the way over to the first cluster we made and slip stitch at the very top of it, like so. And that completes row 2 of our 8-row repeat. Check her out. Next is row 3, and I'll flash the graph to give you a little heads up of what's to come. Alright, getting started with that, I have a chain 1 on my hook right now. I'm going to turn my work, and from here I'm looking at this chain 5, and I'm going to slip stitch into the first 2 chains. So here is my first slip stitch. I know it's a little tight getting into that space, but we're just getting this row started. There's my second slip stitch. Next I'm going to single crochet right up under there into that chain 5 space. And this is going to be the easiest row of the entire 8-row repeat. So chain 5, and reach on over to the next chain 5 space, leave a single crochet, and then repeat. Chain 5, reach over to the next chain 5 space and leave a single crochet. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the footage for the rest of this row, and I'll meet you towards the end. And towards the end of my row 3, I have one final chain 5 space remaining, leaving my last single crochet, and then my last chain 5, and I'm going to reach all the way over to this first single crochet that we made on this row, right here on top, so that we can have a seamless transition from row to row. And that completes row 3. I'm going to chain 1 and lay her down to give you a better look at what it's looking like. Alright, our next row is probably the most annoying. Row 4. I'm so sorry, but I have to give you a heads up now, okay? Just have patience. It's going to be worth it and it's going to be beautiful. With all that being said, I have my chain 1 on my hook, and I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to slip stitch into the first 2 chains of this chain 5, working my way up to the center of this chain 5 space. So here is my first slip stitch. Oh my god, I don't think I've slip stitched any slower. Here is my second slip stitch. Dude, I even have this like sped up to 1.5 speed. Alright, next I'm going to single crochet right up under there. Now from here, I'm going to chain 3, and once again, this is going to count as a double crochet. It's only unique because it's kind of like a cluster. Now I'm going to go back into the single crochet and leave 2 more double crochet. So this is the single crochet at the base of my chain 5. I'm just going into that, leaving 2 double crochet. I know this is funky. This is just how we get this row started, okay? There we go. So technically we have 3 double crochet at the top of this chain 5 space. The row has begun. Now we can move on. Chain 1, move over to the next chain 5 space, and into the 3rd chain. 1, 2, 3. We're going to leave 3 double crochet, and I insist you better leave them into the 3rd chain. Do not just put them all up under that chain 5 space, because they will spread out and that will sabotage this design, so don't do that. Chain 1, move over to the next chain 5 space, count your way up to the middle of that chain 5 space and leave your 3 double crochet. I'm sorry this is difficult, and I really hope you didn't work with any yarn that splits, because I did on my first skirt and it really sucked. Anyways, repeat these steps by leaving 3 double crochet into the 3rd chain of every chain 5 space all the way around, and I'll meet you towards the end. I'm towards the end of my row 4, and I have 1 chain 5 space remaining, so I'm going to leave my last 3 double crochet here into that 3rd chain space. Once that's complete, I'm going to chain 1 and reach all the way over to the first cluster that we made and slip stitch into the top of that chain 3, and that completes our row. So the hardest row of our 8-row repeat is finally over. The rest is pretty straightforward. Our next row is half double crochets, and I'll flash the graph to give you a heads up of what's to come. To get started with row 5, chain 1 and turn your work. Begin with a half double crochet into that first chain 1 space. And then continue half double crocheting into the next 3 stitches from the previous row and repeat. Half double crochet into your chain 1 space, half double crochet into the next 3 double crochet, over and over and over all the way around, and I'll meet you towards the end. Right now I'm leaving my last few stitches on top of the last cluster from the previous row, and I'm ready to slip stitch. So looking at that first half double crochet that I made on this row, inserting my hook, and just closing it with a slip stitch. Alright, row 6 is double crochets only. I'll go ahead and help you get started with that. So chaining 1, turn your work. We're going to begin with a stacked double crochet right where that chain 1 space is coming out of. So I'm going to show you how to do this again, starting with a single crochet and going back into that front post and leaving another single crochet. So it's basically like 2 single crochets stacked on top of each other, making this a stacked double crochet. Continue leaving your double crochets into every stitch all the way around. This is a really straightforward row. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the footage, and I'll meet you towards the end. Right now I'm leaving my last few stitches to finish up this row. There's my last double crochet, and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of this stacked double crochet at the beginning of our row. I was obviously struggling again to get my hook in here to finish this row. It did not want to be finished. Anyways, that completes row 6. Next is row 7, which is triple crochets and chain spaces. I'm going to try my hardest to say triple crochet properly. Anyways, chain 1, turn your work. Starting with a stacked triple crochet. It's just like the stacked double crochet. So we're going to get started with a single crochet in that first stitch. Going back into that front post, leaving another single crochet, and you probably guessed it, go back into that last front post and leave another single crochet, and that makes your stacked triple crochet. I think this looks better than chaining 3. A chain 3 is real skimpy, real skinny. We don't like her. We like it looking seamless. So chain 1, skip 1, and leave a triple crochet. Here we go. You guys all know what I'm trying to say, so let's get going with this, alright? Chain 1, skip 1, triple crochet, repeat. I'm at the end of my row with only 3 stitches remaining. I'm going to leave my last triple crochet here and leaving that last stitch alone. And I'm going to chain 1 and reach all the way over to this stacked triple crochet and slip stitch into the very top of it. So trying to ignore that chain 1 space, I know that the stitch over to the right of it is the top of my triple crochet. And that completes row 7. Alright, last row you guys, row 8. This will be another super straightforward row because it's just double crochets. So let's get started with that. I have a chain 1 on my hook and I'm turning my work. And I'm beginning with a stacked double crochet in this very first stitch right on top of this triple crochet from the previous row. And then continuing leaving a double crochet into every chain and stitch from the previous row all the way around, and I'll meet you towards the end. Right now I'm leaving my last few stitches. Don't forget to leave your last double crochet into this chain 1 space before we close it off. Once that's done, slip stitch into the top of your stacked double crochet from the beginning of the row, and that completes row 8. And we have finally successfully made one round of our 8 row repeats, and now we're going to keep doing this over and over and over until you get the length that you want. Or if you want to add a little more ruffly flare and increases later, I'm about to show you how to do that. Because don't forget, I have another mermaid tail design that I'm working off to the side. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and switch my yarn color to this other light shade of green, and I'm going to do my next 8 row repeats in that color, and I'm just going to give you an update per row for the next 8 row repeat. If your skirt needs a increase right now, go ahead and skip to this timestamp and I will show you how to do an increase. Otherwise, keep following along with me. Here's a repeat of row 1. Here's a repeat of row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, and row 8. From here on out, I'm not going to give you updates per row anymore. I'm going to give you updates for every 8 row repeat. So here's another 8 rows. Here is another update. So I wanted to call out real quick that on this last 8 row repeat, I went up in hook size on row 6. So starting on row 6, I went up on hook size. I just wanted to see if it makes it like flare a little bit more, and it did. So with the next color on the next 8 row repeat, I'm going to do the same thing with the 5mm crochet hook and see if it adds a little bit more ruffle. And if not, I'm going to do some increases on the next 8 row repeat. So I'll come back with an update and let you know. I might even do a try on after this. So to be continued. Here's what my next 8 row repeat looks like with increasing my crochet hook to a 5mm. So I haven't done any increases yet, but I really like the natural flare that increasing my hook size just gave me. As you can see where my stitch marker is right here, that's where I began using my 5mm. I want to measure the difference between the hook sizes. So this first one measured out 4 inches exactly, and the second one with the 5mm hook measured out to be 4 3/4 inches. So that did improve the length a little bit, but not by much. So I do want to add a little bit more of a flare, and I'm going to demonstrate a couple of ways to do so. So before I even get started on my next 8 row repeat, I'm going to flash the chart and show you that your increase is basically going to replace either row 6 or 8. Those are double crochet rows, so it keeps it pretty simple. The amount of increases that you do on this row will depend on which type of flare that you want. So let's dive into our different options. If you want to increase by only 8 stitches, which is about 1 inch wide, then you can do this slight subtle increase. If you want to add about 4 more inches of fabric, then do this A-line increase and divide by 16. If you're doing a mermaid tail, then you're going to increase on every other stitch. And if you want a dramatic ruffled flare, then you're going to increase on every stitch. I am doing the A-line increase on my green skirt right now, so my current stitch count is 160. 160 divided by 16 is 10, so I'm going to increase on every 10th stitch. That's the math that works out for my skirt. Do the math according to your skirt calculations. So picking back up where we last left off, I continued my next 8 row repeat and stopped at row 5. My next row is double crochets, row 6, and I'm replacing that with increases. So I already have a chain 1 on my hook and I've turned my work. I'm going to begin with a stacked double crochet, and then I'm going to double crochet into the next 8 stitches. So that will be 9 total, including my stacked double crochet. Here are my 9 stitches, and then here on the 10th stitch I'm going to leave my increase with 2 double crochet, and then I'm going to repeat that over and over and over, and then I should have 16 more stitches. So keep doing this all the way around, and I'll meet you towards the end. That is if you are doing an increase row. You could just be doing your 8 row repeats forever and ever and ever with no increases. Who knows? Do you, baby boo. I'll meet you at the next update. Alright, here's what we're looking like again. She has more flare, 16 more stitches. It's looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and do another row in this darker green color. I just finished the entire 8 row repeat and stopped at my double crochet row. Just a little recap. The waistband was 136 rows, and then I did a row of single crochet all the way around. And then after that, I did double crochets, but increased on every third stitch. And I believe my stitch count was 168 after that. I just continued the same stitch count with the same 4mm hook up until the 6th row of this 8-row repeat right here in the center. As you can see, this is my little indicator letting me know that I went up in hook size. So from there, that blue stitch marker, you can see it flaring a little bit more. And then all the way down here, I increased by 16 stitches, and then everything was the same after that. And now I'm ready to do the border. But before we do the border, I gotta show off the mermaid tail design, and here is where I am at with that. I have successfully completed 5 of my 8-row repeats with no increases, and I'm giving her a quick try on to make sure it's at the length that I want it to be at before I start adding the mermaid tail ruffled flare. So yes, this is the length that I like. So getting started with our increase row, we're going to increase on every other stitch. I'm at row 6 of my last 8-row repeat, and I'm starting with my stacked double crochet. This is going to count as our first stitch, and we do not increase on the first stitch. We increase on the next stitch, like so. 2 double crochet into the next stitch. 1 double crochet into the next stitch. 2 double crochet into the next stitch. Continue this all the way around, and that's the only change you'll need to make in your 8-row repeats. Once you're done with your increase row, pick back up where you last left off, and everything else remains the same, and you can watch the fabric of your skirt take shape. I'll go ahead and jump to the end of my mermaid skirt to show you an example of exactly that. Here is my increase row for my mermaid tail. So it really doesn't look like much right now, but once you see the next 8-row repeats added to it, you're going to see all the ruffling and increasing. So check it out. This is the rest of the 8-row repeats completed after I did my increase row. I didn't change anything besides increasing my hook size right here where you see the stitch marker. And now she's ready for her Bobble tassel border, but I'm going to demonstrate how to do that on my green skirt. So let's jump back over. So you want to make these tassels. You can really start anywhere at the bottom of your skirt. So once your yarn is attached, we're going to chain up 7 plus 3. This chain 7 makes the height of your tassel. So if you want a longer tassel, you can add or subtract as many as you want. So here's my first 7 chains plus 3. Now I have 10 chains. Into the 3rd chain from the hook, yarn over, and we're going to leave a half double crochet cluster. So insert your hook, pull up a loop, and pull through 2, leaving 2 chains on your hook. Again, insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2 chains, leaving 3 loops on your hook. And again, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops. Now you should have 4 chains on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4 loops. All right, now you have this weird looking stitch right now that kind of looks like a spoon. We're gonna keep going with our bobble here. So chain up 3. And again, we're gonna leave a half double crochet cluster into the base of this chain 3. Yarn over. Insert your hook into the very first chain that you just made of those 3. Pull up a loop, pull through 2. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2. You have 3 loops on your hook. And last time, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2. And now you have 4 chains on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4. I know, it's a weird funky shape, but basically we're gonna fold this in half to make our big puffy bobble. So the way we fold this in half is slip stitching into the bottom of this first cluster. Now I don't like to work into that big ass hole. I like to add another loop onto my hook before completely securing this slip stitch. So I just snag a little extra loop to pull into my slip stitch. Once it's all nice and closed and looking like a little rosebud, we're gonna chain 8 and work our way back down to our skirt. So here's my 8 chains. I'm going to skip the next 3 stitches and then slip stitch into the 4th stitch. And that's how you make one of your bobble tassels. That was a mouthful, but I will be demonstrating this a few more times so that you can get the hang of it. Chaining up 7 plus 3, that's 10 chains total. Going back into the 3rd chain from the hook with a half double crochet cluster. then chaining up 3 more and doing another half double crochet cluster in the base of that chain. Folding our clusters in half on top of each other with a slip stitch. And then chaining our way back down with 8 chains. Skipping 3 stitches, slip stitching into the 4th. All right, let's keep going with these bobble tassels. If you need any instructions repeated, just rewind the footage a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and keep working on this. As you can see, my lovely companion, Fiona. She's a great project manager and she keeps me in check and tells me I'm doing a good job, and so are you, because we're almost done. I'm at the end of my border row, leaving my last bobble, chaining 8, working my way back down, and leaving my last slip stitch. So we have these 3 stitches right here, and I'm going to slip stitch into the very first stitch that I made. Chain 1, pull a long enough tail for you to weave in later. Give it a snip, and you're done. Check her out. This is what it looks like all laid out, laying flat. Let me just show you one layer at a time now. Look at these bobble tassels, they're so cute. Now it's time for us to do the waistband drawstring, and there are 2 methods that you can do. So you can either make a chain that can wrap around your waist, or an I-cord, or even a single crochet foundation row. I chose to do a single crochet foundation row, but it kind of ended up being too thick. Either way, whatever method you end up doing, just make sure it's long enough to wrap around your waist and have some extra room for you to be able to tie a bow, like so. So make sure you can have a long enough chain that can wrap around your waist and have some extra give to tie a bow. And we're going to fasten off once you have the right length. Keep the tails on your chain though. We're going to use these tails to weave it through our waistband. So don't tie your knots yet. Keep them on. Now that we're ready to sew, I'm looking at my work with the front facing out, and I'm going to place a stitch marker on the very front, right in the center, right underneath where my belly button should be. This is my center point indicator. Next, I'm going to put my tail of my chain onto my tapestry needle, and I'm going to insert this needle right into the center of the ribbing, a little off to the left from my stitch marker, and pulling enough of this tail through to make sure that I can tie a bow later with that. Next, I'm going to skip 3 rows of ribbing and then come up with my tapestry needle from the back upwards right in the center of this ribbing. And then I'm going to skip over to the next row of ribbing, insert my tapestry needle into the center, and then pull it through again. So there will be a little pattern to this. So come up after you skip 3 rows of ribbing. Go back down into the next row of ribbing. Skip the next 3 rows of ribbing and then come back up. I kind of hope this makes sense. There is another method though that we can do that is better and kind of cuter than this one. But I'm gonna hurry up and get through this so that I can show you both methods. So continue this pattern all the way around and stop right before your stitch marker, like so. I am coming upwards as my last weaving of this. You want this to come up so that you can tie it, or else it's gonna be janky and funky. So now you can stretch this and tie off your ends and cut your tails off and try her on. I know y'all are excited to try it on without it falling off your hips, unless you added your drawstring earlier. If you added your drawstring earlier in the project, then kudos to you. You're smart. But yeah, let's try her on. Here's the final result. We love her. This is before blocking too, so she's still a little lumpy. The only thing I don't like is how bulky the waistband is with this fat ass drawstring in it. So I want to try some elastic cord instead. I will be taking this out completely and using my brand new $2 Walmart elastic cord. So I ripped that waistband bitch out and turned her inside out. And I started with the back seam, grabbed the 3.75mm hook and my elastic cord. With my cord, I'm creating a slip knot and inserting my hook just so I can tighten it as tight as I can, and then removing it from my hook, setting it off to the side. Now I'm inserting my hook into the spine of our waistband, and then putting my elastic slip knot back onto the hook and chaining one to secure. From here, I'm going to begin slip stitching into the raised ribbing rows right here in the center. So from here, I'm going to insert my hook somewhere into the center, pulling up a loop, and then slip stitching. Moving over to the next raised row of our ribbing, I'm inserting my hook somewhere in the center and slip stitching again. So this is how I'm going to go all the way around my waistband. I'm not sure how to better explain this because I'm not gonna lie, I just learned this little hack, so hope it's working for y'all. We're just gonna fast forward till the end so that I can show you how I finish it off for myself. But look at that elasticity, y'all. All right, here are my last few slip stitches. And now I'm just going to chain one and pull a long enough tail to do something with. I'm not exactly sure yet. Then I'm gonna tie the beginning and end tails together twice to be extra secure. I think I'm gonna weave them through and maybe even like burn them. I'm not totally sure what I'm gonna do with these elastic tails yet, but I love the way that this ribbing with the elastic waistband looks and fits. I'm gonna try it on for you guys to show you the difference between this and the drawstring. Also, both of these versions were before I steam blocked it. I'm gonna jump over to the footage where it's blocked, so it also got a lot longer whenever I steamed it, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. Also, check out the special notes that I have for each of the skirts. But anyways, that concludes this tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that it was easy to follow. I do intend on releasing a written pattern. I'll leave a link to the written pattern in the description once it's released. And if you make this skirt, tag me because I want to see your versions. I want to see your variations. I want to see all of those drawings come to life because I have not made any of the short versions. Love y'all, and I hope that I see you sooner than the last time because I need to get these videos out. I need to post more. I miss y'all. I'm really close to quitting my job. So close. My passive income has been very consistent, so that's a thing. And it would help me out if you guys left a like and subscribe. Yeah, that would really help out. So help me get to my goal, because I want to do this full time for y'all.